Good evening, everybody. This is Dragged into Turbolasers, a Between the Bolter and Me podcast. This is episode 2, and my name's Eric Wire, and joined with me tonight, my brother Adam Wire.
Hey, everybody.
Unfortunately, Greg can't be here tonight. He's actually watching the second episode of the new X-Files series. But
the truth's out there.
The truth is out there. But I'm pleased to say that we're going to be joined by our good friend Brad Smith.
Hello, I'm Brad.
Brad's been a good friend of us for many years and has played Warhammer 40,000 with us for like a long time. So we thought he would be a good dissenting
alternate opinion.
Yeah, just another voice.
Yeah, a different sounding voice.
Yeah, no, it's true. We sound pretty similar, but that's neither here nor there. So tonight we have a bunch of things to talk about, but I think I'd like to start out just talking a little bit about some of the new releases that are coming out and revealed in January, which is primarily going to just be Age of Sigmar stuff because, Games Workshop has been releasing a lot of that. But then we'll get into kind of the main talking point of the episode, which is actually that Mantic Games is about to reveal or have revealed Walking Dead board game miniature / game. Like to talk a little bit about kind of what all that entails and the information that's kind of currently available for that. And then finally, just a little bit about some of the projects we're working on at Between the Bolter and Me and some of the stuff Brad might be working on and that sort of thing. So I guess, to start with these talking points, the Fyreslayers, what do everyone think about them?
I guess the main thing is it's sort of nice to finally see a new army being released for the game, because I guess the entire summer was taken up by Age of Sigmar releases, and I guess
3 months
towards
just Stormcast.
Towards the end of the releases, I was hoping that we'd see some visually distinct releases, and
because I admit, the primary thing that seemed interesting about Age of Sigmar and primary reason why I was just interested at all was this idea about these different realms, kind of like a planescape, like D&D planescape sort of thing. They sounded like, they're redesigning some of the races and such, and that all sounded kind of exciting. But then we got 3 months of Stormcast that all look about the same, and modified Khorne Berserker guys, which
way too much of that.
Which a lot of the models by themselves were fine, but it was just so much of the same, and not actually telling us you're talking about these new races and things. That kind of sounds neat. Maybe it's the opportunity for Games Workshop to get away from all the fantasy tropes and do interesting things, and they just didn't show us anything. So these Fyreslayers, at least this is an indication that they, have some new ideas. I guess, admittedly, they do kind of just look like
the dwarves are back.
They've
made new Troll Slayers. It took, 20 years, and they finally released them, and they've only done it after the death throes of Warhammer. But it happened. Well, so I think we should lead off this discussion with a little description. I'm just going to read a phrase from their battle tome or army book. And this will help everyone get in the mindset of this new army. Charging into battle without hesitation, screaming war cries at a cowering foe while hefting enormous war axes. The Fyreslayers are the descendants of the shattered warrior god Grimnar. So I don't know about you, but I think the key point in that and what
enormous
they wanted, that's what they wanted you to focus on: enormous war axes. And if we look at those models, they did it. They achieved their goal.
Yeah, no doubt they delivered there, right?
Enormous war axes.
Admittedly, I think if you look at, I guess, sort of their main choice, these Volkite Berserkers, if we disregard the sort of champion guy, the other one's axes, pretty gigantic. aren't quite as big as I almost would have anticipated Games Workshop doing, because they're really big on.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. The champion, or if you take a look at the champion, he's holding two enormous double-headed war axes at arm's length. I don't, even with those muscles he has, I don't think he can do that.
Well, it's the magic, Adam. He's the gold flowing through his veins.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So they hammer those gold runes or whatever in their bodies and are imbued with like fantastical powers.
Yeah.
All makes sense.
Yeah, so they're okay. I'm not too upset with them. Some of their weapons are kind of dumb, but I feel that's just nearly always happens.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, just judging by the internet, have commented on the helmets, and I think I actually kind of like them. I think they're kind of, they kind of got that Greek thing going for them, and I kind of like them. I don't know what you guys.
I kind of agree. Like, and it also kind of gets around their like flowing beards and like the mohawk like sort of thing, and like, I don't know. I think that fits with just the kind of crazy nature of them. Yeah, so I think it's good.
I don't know. I think it would have been. What is everyone's thought on this? But like their mohawks, do you think that is actually their hair?
It's their hair.
Okay, they have some crazy hair then. And
that's better.
I'm pretty fine with it.
Yeah. I like it too. That's dwarves.
Well, so one thing that's interesting, the set, which I don't think they really show too many pictures of them, but you can also make a unit where they actually have shields. And I like their shields. They're like little simple round bucklers.
Seriously?
I think they look pretty good. Yeah, I like them.
So
yeah, I mean, who would have known?
If that's true, that's interesting. Yeah, they do. They do look pretty nice. I feel Games Workshop has sort of an interesting way of doing that most of their newer box sets are designed that they can create like 2 units, which, is nice, give you some options and whatnot. But they have a tendency to like not actually show you the options. And like in a lot of cases, like the second option is just like better looking and like you hardly ever see it.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
This is particularly, or it makes me think of like the Adeptus Mechanicus had these Electro Priests, and I actually did an unboxing thing about them. But right when the pictures were revealed and such, they showed all the ones that have these stabs, and they kind of look ridiculous. And just the stabs themselves emphasize how awkward some of the proportions are. But there's the other unit, which they didn't show a whole lot, and kind of some of the White Dwarf stuff and whatnot, that don't have those stabs and look a lot better. But like they hardly ever even showed you those. And
you wouldn't know.
Yeah, so now not only do the models sometimes get a bad rap from the paint job, but you don't even know what you're even getting in the box.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel the paint job, so I feel, they're the people who, the heavy metal team, I guess, like they're good at painting and such, but I almost feel like they're given some like edict, like you need to paint these in really flashy colors to like pick out every little detail in a way that'll almost make them look comical, but like it'll show people that like they have a lot of little gems and they have these chains. Whereas I think in a lot of cases, if there was more of a I don't know, realistic or like battle.
Yeah, I think that particularly shows on like all of that Everchosen stuff, like the paint scheme they picked. Like, I'm not a big fan. But
yeah, I think it would help a lot. So I guess it almost always comes back to it. If all the newer Games Workshop models, even if you're not that thrilled with them, if you actually get to look at the plastics and look at them, they tend to be pretty nice, at least in a sense of detail and how it was cast and stuff, even if you're not that thrilled with the design.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I think the paint schemes often have a lot to do with that. But they have a Hearthguard box set too, which I think are only 5 guys, and
a lot of gems in the 2 units you can construct out of those.
But one of them has these really weird flail things that.
Well, GW, they really love making like polearm type weapons, which in addition to the blade, they also have like an additional flail or chain to like inflict extra damage.
The Deathwing had the Mace of Absolution.
So they have a description on their site about the Hearthguard Berserkers. They're the ones with the polearms, the chains. Protectors of the Rune Father and his sons, these relentless warriors swing their flame-strike poleaxes in massive arcs, puncturing even the strongest armor of chaos. Here comes the important part. The attached heavy chain and flaming brazier increases the lethality of their determined assault.
Yep.
Let that sink in.
I just can't, like, if they would swing one of those, it would almost have to hit them. Like,
well, these are perhaps their best and strongest warriors. Take that into consideration, Brad.
I mean, they can take it.
They relish the Urgold runes hammered into their bodies. They'll absorb the damage.
That's true. You can't argue with the Urgold. You can't.
Well, so we made light of their flailing poleaxes, but what do we think of the Hearthguard with the poleaxe battle flame rifles?
They're not much better.
I don't think they're any better. They're magma pipes. They carry magma pikes, magical weapons crafted in the heart of the Forge Temple, able to spew forth bolts of devastatingly hot liquid rock that sear flesh, melt armor, and ignite the very air, such as their blazing heat.
I thought you said pipes. And it's like, just imagine one of them smoking, one of them like they don't do anything half-assed. They always say the biggest everything.
That's true. Yeah, so I'm not much of a fan of this second box.
No, but actually, so talking about big releases and stuff.
Oh,
what about the Magma Droth?
Magma Droth.
Yeah,
I think it goes without saying that every race needs a dragon.
Yeah, I guess.
So how do we feel about the price tag?
$110. That isn't too great, but at least it's not like $180 or something, right?
Right.
It's cheaper than
how much is Archeon, the new Archeon model?
Like 130, 150. He's like really steep. So again, at least this dragon thing, the heroes that you have riding it, like whichever one you put on the dragon, the other ones you can still build. So at least if you're going off GW's pricing, like each of those guys would sell for like $30 each, which admittedly is kind of absurd. But so I guess
you're getting the value,
at least in terms of GW stuff. I still don't think I would be that excited about getting it, but I think the dragon looks nice, all told.
Yeah, I think the dragon looks pretty good, but no matter how good the dragon looks, I think I have issues with the rider in nearly all cases on the Magma Droth.
Riding the big anvil? Saddling an anvil? That sounds cool. The dwarves love their anvils and forge and stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know. At least two of the variants, they are like sitting on the anvil like a saddle, and that looks awful. Like the dwarves, their legs aren't long enough that they could even ride anything and like look reasonable. And so they just put this big anvil strapped to the back and like have them sit there. It looks awful.
Yeah, why didn't they just have them stand up?
Well, yeah, I don't understand that, because one of the versions, like the Rune Father or whatever, he is just like standing on an anvil altar. I mean, that in itself is kind of dumb, but at least that sort of makes sense.
It's the Rune Smiter, Adam. The Rune Smiter.
Right.
Sorry, guys. I mean, he has a Keyblade. Did you see that?
I saw the Keyblade. It doesn't look very good.
Well, yeah.
Kingdom
Well,
Hearts,
so
fun,
interesting.
goofy, and
Yeah. Well, interestingly, one of the variants, I don't know which one it is. Maybe one of you can figure it out. It looks like he actually has really small war axes that I think they look really nice. And I could have seen if they had made like all of their models with axes the size of his, like they'd look great. I think they'd be really nice. But I have a strong suspicion that those axes are to be like throwing axes or something. So they made them smaller.
Fine.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. And I guess if he had throwing axes, then he could actually effectively fight riding the magma droth.
Well, have you seen the third option with the guy with the giant axe?
The polearmish thing?
Yeah.
Looks really dumb. But
he's getting in there. He's getting some action.
I guess, the only thing you could say about it, like, he could maybe hit an enemy from atop the dragon with that stupid thing, which is more...
Oh, I think it looks kind of like a whipple bat.
Taking his anvil and the wiffle back out to the magma park.
The magma park.
Also, one of the things I do like about the dragon, getting back to the dragon, that looks okay on his like rib cage. It almost looks like he has gills or something, or like slits in his body that will like expand and contract when he's like breathing fire. And I think that looks kind of neat.
Yeah, no, it seems as though like someone at least vaguely tried to think of sort of the anatomy or how this might actually happen. So yeah, that's a nice touch.
Not the rider though.
Well,
so actually that reminds me. The whole notion you have a dwarf riding anything just doesn't seem like it would work too well. But it sort of reminds me of a release by Forge World. They released like a chaos dwarf of sorts riding like dare I say a doom bull. I don't know if that's what it was actually called though. And I always really liked him, thinking that was one of their better renditions of a dwarf riding something. It looked pretty believable. Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I think you're referring to Drazhoff the Ashen.
That's probably yes. Yeah, that's it. It's not a doom. I bet it's not a doom bull. What is it?
I believe it's well, I'll just be honest. I'm looking at it. It's a Bale Taurus Cinder Breath.
Oh, the Cinder Breath.
Yes, okay, yes. I understand. That makes sense.
All right. Yeah, so he's probably like a mage or like a something.
Yeah, I think maybe. So
he looks like he's pointing, casting a spell or something. So
that makes a bit more sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel we've droned on long enough about these dwarves that no one's going to buy, or at least we're not going to buy.
Well, so actually, no, one more thing. Like, I could see they released a surprising amount of different character models, at least 4 different ones. And one of them, the Ulrich Rune Master, I actually really like him. And interestingly, I think he's the only one, while he has like an impressive braided beard, he does not have a mustache. And he really kind of looks like the quintessential, like a noble Roman leader or whatever. And I feel like a skilled converter or someone who has a lot of time on their hands could probably carve out that head and use it to make a cool conversion. So like I like
looks
him.
Different. He looks like not just the same old dwarf, which he is nice.
Why do you think he lost his mustache? Do you think it burned off him or something?
I think there's a story behind that, but I don't.
We don't know.
Get the battle tome.
Yeah, get the battle tome. Buy the battle tome. Find out.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, so I don't know. We've talked a lot about that. And last thing before we move off the new releases, 13th Company guys, the Wolfmen seem to be coming back.
They're back. Excited? They're back from the Eye of Terror.
And they're jumping with joy, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're here, guys. Big hug.
Group hug.
I think the best part is and we've only seen one blurry picture so far. Only I have, and I'd like to pay special attention to the Wolfen guy who appears to be getting ready to throw a snowball. That's
It does look a bit like a snowball, and he's pretty jammed and excited about it.
He's getting into
Almost so much that he dislocated his other arm.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's worth that extra pain dislocating that shoulder to have a good snowball fight, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably a skull or something, but it does. The blurred picture makes something more interesting of it.
Yeah, but overall, I'm pretty excited that they're bringing them back.
I agree. It's cool that they're bringing them back. Like, that was an interesting thing. Like, they were in the Eye of Terror, all that. Like, and even if not all the models are great, I feel like the guy jumping
cool
to give a big
berserkers.
hug. Like, he has a good head, it looks like. So I think there'll be a lot of interesting stuff. So I'm excited to see what they do with it. But
I think the modeling community will make satisfying Wolfen characters.
Yeah, they'll be able to pick them clean of all the good, and so I think that's exciting. But I guess we can talk about that more in a later podcast whenever they actually have pictures. Yeah. So I guess I'd like to get into the main topic for tonight, which is actually about Mantic Games, which they're
releasing
large,
a new Kickstarter.
Yeah, a pretty large miniature company that released a bunch of games pretty much all through Kickstarter. Dead Zone and what's their
Warhammer game?
Kings of War?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
And, yeah, I think so. And maybe Warpath is their 40K equivalent. I don't know. They released a lot of stuff, but
you forgot Dreadball, my favorite.
Yeah, that is probably the most fun from what I've played anyway. But so regardless, they're releasing a new game, which is the Walking Dead All Out War, they call it. So they've actually teamed up with whatever the studio that actually, I guess, publishes the comic books to create to use that IP and create a miniature based kind of war skirmish game based on the comic series of The Walking Dead, so not the
that's interesting.
Yeah, no Daryl in the game. So
they went out and told people that no Daryl, but assured you that there were a lot of additional cool characters from the the comic book series that aren't really in the show, which I can't really speak for because I only read a volume or two of Walking Dead.
Should never be easy, son. It's IDW. They're the publishing company, right?
I think that was the old one.
Yeah, I think I thought it was like Sky something.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, it doesn't really matter. But regardless, they announced it, and they already said it should be on the shelves late 2016, which is pretty soon, all things considered. Considering they haven't really said anything about it, but and it seems the designer, whoever wrote the rules, is a Mark Latham, who I'd never really heard of him before, but he's made some other rule systems for different miniature-based games. One of them, which is Legends of the Old West, which is kind of like a Western miniature game, which he actually seemed to have wrote the rules with Rick Priestley. And I think he published some for the Warhammer Historical Society, one of their games and stuff. So he's made a few things, but nothing that I had heard too much about. But one of the things that I saw, it was announced in one of their sort of blog posts for it, which actually sounded pretty good. The retail price of the base game is actually only $50, which
that's good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good price point. You figure for a starter set, especially when this is supposed to appeal to the masses, right? That's that's been their big push on this.
I need to make a correction here. I finally remembered the name of the Image Comics. They're the guys that put out Walking Dead.
At least initially, yeah.
Yeah.
But, well, regardless, so yeah, it seems a pretty good price. But And it is actually, I think, just revealed today that what we basically already knew was happening because it's Mantic Games, but it's going to be a Kickstarter again, and it's actually opening on February 1st. Which thoughts on it being a Kickstarter?
Yeah, I've got a lot of opinions about this. I feel like a company like Mantic shouldn't be financing their development through Kickstarter. I think that's, I don't really, I guess I don't know the ins and outs of their finances, but I just can't imagine,
Yeah,
they couldn't finance this some other way.
I'm a little sick of it too. Like, I mean, I can understand a small fledgling company trying to start out, like, never produce a game, like, to try to finance a new venture that they don't think might not be successful, or to kind of get its name out there or whatever. But, like, this is like the 10th Kickstarter they've done. And it almost, I don't know, maybe this is too harsh, but it almost seems a little disingenuous. Like, they just keep, it's like they can't take risks or can't, like, respect the customer enough. Like, I mean, Kickstarter's fine. I've backed a lot of stuff, but in some sense, I would kind of just like to, like, we have this game, we think you'll like it, and trust us because we're Mantic, you like our stuff, whatever, and just it comes out when it comes out, and you can go buy it, rather than, like, all these talk of, like, oh, we're going to give you all these Kickstarter exclusives and you're going to love this. You have back it now and hope to get it on time, when we hope to get it at the end of 2016, like we said now, but there might be delays. And
Yeah, I just kind of feel like I think, and I don't think Mantic's alone.
no.
With their abuse of Kickstarter, I feel like just gaming companies,
Cool Mini or not,
and companies in quotation, just seem to be abusing Kickstarter and really putting the burden on, like, the consumer to really take the risk. And
yeah,
I don't back things on Kickstarter. I have never backed anything on Kickstarter, and I probably never will. But that's just me. But I feel like Mantic at this point, they really just need to kind of grow up a little bit. And
I kind of agree there.
yeah,
And, like, for that matter, they went on a big deal, like, because they, like, we've done tons of Kickstarters. We know the ins and outs. We know that in some of the past we've had some issues with shipping, this and that. So they wanted to make this a simple one with only a few pledges. And the main pledge, would you care to guess how much they're, like, the main thing they want you to buy?
$150.
So I guess it's better than that, but mind you, this is a $50 base game. The main pledge that they think you should get, or one of the few pledges they're starting with, is $125.
Ooh,
and
that's
based
a
on
lot.
a $50 price, like, so you're paying an additional, like, $75 for Kickstarter specials and, like, promotional miniatures and stuff. And I mean, I guess some people like Kickstarters because maybe they'll give you special promotional stuff, but by and large, I don't really like that, because then if you didn't get in on the Kickstarter in that, like, month it was, like, you can't get some of the content of the game, and that's kind of aggravating. And but having said all that, so over twice the cost of the game to, like, fund them making little knickknacks and additional stuff seems a little much.
Yeah, I think that's way too, like I said, that's way too much for me, even if I would even want to
I
do
feel like
that.
it would, even if it was 100, maybe I would take a little bit of umbrage to it, but I don't think I would. It would be fine, but, like, that's a fair amount of money for something that a bunch of little add-ons. I mean, I guess we'll see on, I guess, February 1st when they release it. Maybe they are giving you a bunch of additional stuff too, but
Maybe they're giving you 2 copies.
I guess I would have liked to see the main thing that they could still give you some of maybe promotional stuff, like $70 or something. But
or even 100. Like, lots of games have been having Kickstarters, like Cool Mini or not. Often it's like roughly $100, and they give you tons of extra stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe they learned in the past Kickstarter stuff. If you try to give too good a deal, you won't be able to pay for shipping costs or something. I don't know. Well, we can get off the.
Also, so I guess this brings up another point. Some of Mantic Games, the material they cast a lot of their models out was less than spectacular. Do we have any idea of what they're going to be
So that's
sculpting
kind of what I
models
wanted to
about?
actually get in here. So all the models are single part plastic figures, so there's no assembly, which I don't know, some people might not like that, some might, but to be honest, for Mantic, I'm pleased to hear they're single part figures. Like, so this, you can buy them and they're basically done, like, because I don't know, in the past, so for some of Mantic's initial figures, they had this resin plastic hybrid material.
It was awful.
It was just so horrible to work with. Like, you just almost couldn't make them nice. Like, if you want to nicely take off the mold lines or something, like, it would scratch them, and it was just horrible. Like, I wanted to play Dreadball and got like a team of like the dwarves or whatever, and thought like, oh, like 8 guys, like, even if it's kind of tough to work with, I'll be able to do it. I can do it. And I put together like 2, and I just couldn't stomach doing it anymore. It's just such a pain. So like,
you have to approach trimming and assembling these models completely differently than a normal plastic model. So like, if you had years of experience working with normal plastic models, you'd come to these and they're just inherently different.
Yeah, it was a wild ride trying to do it. Like, you had to you actually had to cut the model, like the mold lines off. Like,
I had heard that like you could then go, even if you scuffed up parts of the model, you could make like little like solutions or like maybe like acetone and stuff like that, and then you could use that to like melt away all the scuff marks and stuff and get like a nice smooth finish. So like, just something that you wouldn't have done if you were assembling like a GW plastic model or like a Mantic or not Mantic.
Yeah, it was like just one of those things after spending over like 12 years or more doing model stuff and like having trouble. Like, I mean, I guess in general, we tend to spend a lot of time like really trying to make the models look really nice, get rid of seams and stuff, and it was just really hard. But admittedly, they did kind of switch over to like a more like actual injection mold plastic stuff, and they actually, for Dead Zone for that matter, they actually sent me a couple of the plastic Enforcer, like sort of Space Marine-ish models in like plastic, and I was kind of excited about it because when I backed Dead Zone and they sent me a whole cartload of Restic models, and I never even touched them. Like, I'll never assemble those. Like, it's too hard, not worth it. And to be honest, I don't even think most of the sculpts are that. They're okay, but not worth the time. But so they sent me some plastic ones, which admittedly it's a much, much, much better than the resin shit. But even that, like, I tried to assemble one and I just stopped because there aren't instructions, and like, that seems like they're only like some arms and legs, whatever. Like, you should be able to figure it out. And I mean, I guess I could have, but like, all the pieces the tolerances are so like shallow that none of the arms really fit on right or easily. So I knew what was matching up, and I just sort of gave up on it because all the detail was so shallow, and the plastic itself isn't that nice. Like, it's not like the plastic that Weird uses or Dreamforge Games or like
even Kingdom Death.
Yeah, so there are tons of these other companies, smaller companies, producing models that were able to get the plastic usable, and I don't know. So it was a little bit. It's not my cup of tea, but so having kind of gone on a tangent there, these models are not that plastic.
Yeah, they're
for Walking Dead. They're what the plastic that was used in another Mantic Kickstarter called Dungeon Saga, which I don't know a huge amount of that about it, but it's kind of like a Warhammer
Quest.
Yeah, and it supposedly is like sort of a single part, like really bendy sort of plastic. So I assume that's kind of the traditional
Fantasy
cheap
Flight board
board
game
game,
plastic
fantasy flight
pieces.
game figure sort of stuff,
Hmm.
which so probably isn't particularly nice, but admittedly, they're single part things. Like I kind of welcome that. Like you buy it, you take it out, like, and you can use it, paint it if you want to or not. Like
Do we
I
have
think
any?
that's
Do we have any
probably
idea
better.
the scale of these models?
They released a few, but it was hard to tell. Like I
Because
think we'll look at
their Mars Attacks game, like I liked a lot of the models for that. But the scale of those models, they were much smaller than like your standard 28 millimeter models. So
yeah,
like I
we'll just
know
need
like
to see some pictures.
some people really like, so for instance, like Zombicide, the Cool Mini are not put out. Like some people would even get like their zombie models and use them in conversions and stuff for like other game systems and stuff. So I mean,
You know,
there's
kind
a
of. Yeah, I could
possibility
kind of
that
see, yeah, this working. Or even if you have a lot of zombie side stuff, you could probably use it. Like I don't think scale is gonna matter that much. But I kind of got the impression that they're slightly smaller. They aren't like quite the 28 millimeter thing, but I don't know. We'll probably have to wait until the Kickstarter thing's revealed to actually see more than like two models. But so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what shows up for that. But um, we talked all this time about this, but didn't really say anything about the game. And
Yeah.
admittedly, not that much has been released about it. They did say that sometime in February they're going to release a like place testing like rule set, so people can kind of look it over, try it themselves, which is neat. And they've tended to do that with their past games, which is one of the things that I do like about Mantic. Like when they have these Kickstarters, that you can actually read the rules and see if it's something that sounds fun and something you'd like to play. Or and a lot of them are just sort of classic sci-fi, fantasy, whatever. You can probably proxy and stuff and see how it goes. But so there should be rule set in February, which maybe that just means when the Kickstarter starts, February 1st. I don't know, but so I'll be kind of excited to see what it is. But
Yeah. Do you think that rule set will be available to everybody or only backers from Kickstarter?
I think it'll be to everyone. In the past, they've always just given it to everyone.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure they have. Although some of them, I think you could actually, like all the Dead Zone and Dreadball and that stuff, I think were all designed by the same guy, and you could just go on that guy's blog and download a lot of the stuff. But I think they're still just released to everyone. But so, what sort of game it is? It actually seems to be a 1-versus-1 sort of game where each player has a band of survivors and they fight one another for resources or ammunition or supplies or something. But like clearly Walking Dead, you're thinking about Walking Dead zombies and stuff, and they're actually controlled by like AI, and exactly how that works isn't entirely clear. I don't like if there's like a deck of cards. I didn't get the impression that there was, but I'm not really entirely sure. But for that matter, the game, it does come with like kind of like a little play mat, kind of like Dead Zone and such. But unlike Dead Zone, it's not based on squares or anything. It's straight measuring with inches and such. So it's more, I guess, traditional board game in that sense.
Yeah, and I think they even said the mat is even smaller than the Dead Zone one.
Bit smaller, yeah.
So that's like a really small, that's a pretty small table to be playing on. I kind of feel, which is interesting. Although you got to feel like The Walking Dead will be a very close quarters sort of game, but
interestingly, they mentioned, so in addition to playing that 1-versus-1 sort of thing, they also supposedly are going to release a set of like narrative sort of scenarios that you can kind of, I think, go through sort of the events of the comics and such. Which is cool. I'm not sure if that's like a solo thing that like you're the survivors and just zombies are the AI controls them, like, or if another player is involved. Yeah,
I
it
kind
feels.
of got the impression that there would be another player.
I mean, like, I feel like there's. I mean,
even for those sort of like campaign sort of games, but
I feel that, like, at least in some of them, there would almost have to be because they're all the different factions and things. But
right.
um,
And I guess
yeah, I don't know.
that's a point I would make about this game, which feels kind of like a miss to me. Is that they seem pretty for the initial release, and I kind of get it that they're starting off with very early in the comic books,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I feel where this game really fits is about where, if you're watching the show, about where they're going to hit during the show right now is where you'd really see like these
All
sort of
these different
gangs,
factions.
yeah, like fighting each other. But it's a little bit hard, and they suppose the what if Shane had his own sort of gang sort of thing, and that's kind of where they're setting it. And I feel that to me was not originally what I kind of expected.
Mm-hmm. Which, so, like, narrative scenarios, that sounds cool, but interesting, and kind of to me sounds a little bit like a miss. There's no experience system in this game.
Wow, yeah,
Like a big
that's
miss.
pretty disappointing.
They did mention, like, they would kind of like to add something to
Well, maybe
affect
that's
that,
one of
but
their stretch goals.
that would be probably a good stretch goal. But yeah,
Everybody
they
get
said that
out there
using.
on February 1st and give them your money. Help
Yeah.
try and get experience systems in.
Yeah, but so yeah, there's no experience, which to me that seems like what games like this skirmish games, one of the cooler things is that you have this little band of survivors and you go through all this hard stuff or these scenarios and you get better, find new equipment and stuff, which they did. You can get different equipment and stuff, so there's at least that.
Yeah.
But there's no experience system, and kind of speaking to that as well, there are also no like generic characters. Like, you don't create your characters for a band, which I think they did say, like, they kind of encourage you to make up your own named characters per se, but all the models they're releasing are all named characters from the comic book series.
Yeah,
Which is an interesting choice.
I don't think that bothers me quite
think
as
it's
much. I mean, you're playing this game because it's The Walking Dead, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So
And you can make your own stuff. So.
and the comic books, they cycle through a ton of characters. Like there's a lot of characters that they'll make and you could use, and
yeah, which they actually mentioned that. Yeah, so again, if this is comic book stuff, so like Daryl, for example, he's not in it, which I feel probably some people will be upset about. But I don't know. I think there are a lot more characters in general in the comic book series, so there'll be a lot of stuff, a lot of characters and whatnot. And I guess they did to try to make excuses for no experience system. They did mention that I think for each of the characters, they'll have like two sides for maybe different points in the character's life almost in the comic or something. So maybe you'll have two different sides, one with slightly different abilities to represent, like, I don't know, early Rick Grimes and later one or something.
Yeah.
So that might be a way to kind of get around that a little bit, but
yeah, well, I just kind of feel like there's, especially if you're supposed to like link these scenarios together, it'd really be beneficial to have some experience gained or something.
Yeah. So maybe the only thing they'll link it with is just you find this stash of weapons or something. And I mean, I guess that's something, but still not quite as enticing as actually like you doing some impressive feat and like gaining that experience and becoming a better like warrior or whatever.
But I'd have to say that overall, I think, despite it being Mantic, despite it being soft plastic, despite it being a Kickstarter, I would be interested in giving it a try. being a fan of the comic books and the TV series, I would definitely want to try it.
For like the price point of $50, that's not too bad. There's not a lot of setup per se, at least in terms of trimming models. So at least that. So yeah, I feel it will be pretty successful just in that regard. Like, it's easy to get into.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people who don't even necessarily play a lot of miniature games, but are fairly into The Walking Dead. That I could easily see this be something that could be a launching point for them to get interested in something a little more serious.
Yeah, no, I think that's true.
Kickstarter.
That's true.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else anyone wants to say about the?
I guess we have seen a couple sculpts. Do we feel like we want to comment on that, or have we not really looked at?
I didn't look at them a whole lot. No. I mean, I saw they had a picture of Rick's son. What's Carl? And he didn't look particularly great. Him with his cowboy hat and like a 1911. Like, it was fine. But
yeah, I thought the holster looked a little awkward on it.
It did not make me think he was a cool character that I would want to use. And for that matter, Rick didn't look that.
No.
They all look kind of stunted and.
The zombies.
I think we just
pretty okay.
I think we just need to see more of them. I think they'll probably be fine. Like, Mantic has gotten into doing digital sculpting. I think they started to do it towards the tail end of the Dead Zone campaign, and stuff looked a lot better because of that. So I feel they'll be pretty fun. They'll be pretty nice. How good they'll actually be cast, being that it's probably that board game plastic, we'll just have to see. But at least, yeah, at the end of the day, it's sort of like that X-Wing mentality, like Fantasy Flight's X-Wing. At least you can just spend the money, open up the package, and use it.
Yeah.
And that's nice. And I appreciate that when Warhammer 40,000 and like all these Games Workshop games are like the exact opposite. And when I tend to spend like...
Well, you're supposed to love the hobby, Eric. Like, love it. Embrace it.
I mean, I do, and that's why I still do it after all these years. And I'm still fine spending, I don't know, 5 hours trimming a little
$110 for the magma draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about the hobby. That's, I guess, what Between the Bolter and Me is about. Like, the hobby aspect of it.
Magma draw.
But I guess I still do like playing the games now and again. So having an opportunity to explore some of these IPs or some of these ideas in a way that's not, well, I need to spend $150 to even see if I'm interested, and then have it all sit in the box and never play it. Whereas I feel this, you could spend $50, open it up, probably because you're still excited, at least play it a time or two. And if you weren't that thrilled with it, at least you played it. And rather than like
that's
Dead
true.
Zone, I spent whatever $100 on that box, and it's just filled with models I don't even want to look at, let alone assemble.
I liked the game. The game was fun.
The game was fun. Like, and it was nice you could just use Space Marines and whatever, Infinity models and stuff. Yeah, I think it was a good game.
I liked it. It was fun.
Exploding dice. Gotta love it.
Yeah, I guess I'm not that thrilled with the exploding dice mechanic.
It was exciting, man.
I enjoyed the game. I would to play it again.
For me, in general, I think their games, the rules have always been pretty solid, been pretty good. Yeah. I've just at times been a bit off-put by how some of the Kickstarter stuff went, how it was sent out and such, but more so than anything, just the models and how hard they were to deal with have always been the sticking point for me. But I don't know. I think this, I think is fairly exciting, and something I would be happy to give a shot. I mean, I probably won't be kickstarting it.
At least not the $125 level.
Yeah.
But if it does get in stores at the end of this year, like, maybe we'll give it a shot and
think
talk
I
about
know
it
a
again.
Christmas gift for a friend.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I guess maybe we can go into the last section here and talk a little bit about kind of the projects and such we're working on, both here between the Bolter and me, and maybe some of the stuff you're working on, Brad.
Yeah, do you want me to start?
Yeah, what are you doing? What are you working on?
Well, I am trying to plan a 40K campaign with yourself and a couple other people I know.
Yeah, and I'm excited to.
Yeah, we're trying to use planetary empires. For the people who don't know, those are those plastic tiles, that Games Workshop released. So I've been
the little hive tiles.
I don't have any of those. It's really unfortunate. I guess you can still order them, so I'll have to look into that. But it's pretty basic, pretty simple. We're just gonna try to find some relic or something. The person who finds it and gets it off planet wins. So that's the campaign in a nutshell.
But I guess just giving it a shot, like playing any games.
Yeah, I've been since we got the big snowstorm over here, I've been priming some of the tiles, getting ready to maybe get some paint on them and actually have it look like something instead of just the gray. I've also been working. Yeah, I've been working on assembling a Mega Knob and looking to get into converting some freebooters here.
That sounds great.
I was really big, and this is a game I don't know if many of the listeners would know about. I was really big into Frostgrave.
I've heard a bunch about that.
I played a couple games and had some really bad experiences, and maybe we can save it for another podcast, perhaps.
Yeah, but a lot of people are pretty excited about it, just as a game, like a fun system that primarily you can just use models you have, and
I mean that's kind of I mean I bought into it, man. Like I bought both the rule books, the Lich King thing. I was serious about it, and I played with a friend of mine. I just didn't have a good time, and I would certainly tell everybody my opinions on it, but I don't want to take up the rest of the time.
Okay, well, we'll have to bring that up some other time. Because I would just to hear a little bit about that. Was it like negative player experience sort of thing?
Yeah, so basically in a nutshell is how it really kind of works is if your opponent, like you and your opponent roll off like a D20, and the experience that I've had, and this has happened twice in 3 games, is he attacks me and my opponent rolls a 20 and I roll a 20, and because of modifiers, like he still wins, and that in of itself is fine. But the end result of those rolls, since he quote unquote won that, is no different than had I rolled a 1. Like that really, I don't know. That to me, that sort of game mechanic, it's almost kind of like, well, I'm not even going to roll until you roll, and like, oh, well, it doesn't matter, Like, oh, you rolled an 18, like I can't beat that because of your modifiers, like, and my guy's now dead. Like it is a violent game. Like a single roll and your character's gone, which they tell you that going in. But
well, I guess we should talk about that.
Hear more about that.
Yeah.
So that's me.
It's good to hear you're working on stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying.
I guess one of the main things that, at least, Adam, you've been working on, right? We had that one project we're doing, trying to do something nice with Kingdom Death's multipart miniatures, which
I guess if anyone... we talked about it a bunch on the blog, but Kingdom Death, they released a whole bunch of multi-part plastic kits trying to help you create your different survivors as they go through the different campaigns and kill the different monsters and get different gear. And while they did an admirable job to make these plastic kits, make all the pieces interchangeable, have lots of different options,
they're not that great.
they're not that great. Yeah, their weapons are outrageously oversized. The scaling, even between models from the same kits, are a little awkward and weird.
And I guess it's sort of unfortunate because a lot of the other Kingdom Death models are pretty nice, and these are just not kind of up to the same scale. But so didn't really want to do a whole lot with them, like spend the time putting all that stuff together when, we don't really need it. So we decided to just try to build a model, see if we could build a model out of it that we thought was neat. And then we just sent off all the rest of the multi-part stuff to another hobbyist to see if they can make something. And then hopefully that'll just be sent around to people and see if what all people can kind of come up with that. So
I guess the model that I created for that is I've almost actually finished painting the model. Like I have to do a little more work on the base, and then it'll be done. And so probably pretty soon I'll have pictures up on the blog of the model. So
I've seen it. It looks nice.
Yeah, so no, that's exciting to kind of finish that, and hopefully, sometime in the near future, throughout the year, we'll see some other models kind of produced through that, and see what people can do. Because I feel there's potential in making some nice stuff, but you have to be a bit careful at what you use.
Yeah.
I guess the other, like the big thing that we're kind of working on at the blog is there is a pretty large project going on. It was started through the one hobby blog, Iron Sleet, which is a bunch of, I guess, 4 different modeling or hobbyists that, or at least were originally from Finland. Some of them are still in Finland, but that are kind of creating this sort of narrative campaign game thing called the Pilgrym Project, which is centered on actually kind of exploring Terra and, so Earth in the 40K universe, like at kind of the turn of the 41st millennium. And a lot of pretty big name sort of people, and primarily the Inquisitor 28 community are going to be involved in it.
And
Jeff
a bunch
Vader
of, and also a bunch
Convertorum.
I guess and also a bunch of people from Games Workshop as well are going to be participating too.
Yeah, so it should be interesting. But we were actually invited to be actually a part of this, so we're kind of in the process of trying to come up with some ideas and create models and stuff to kind of to further this and explore Terra in, the 41st millennium, which will hopefully kind of sometime this summer culminate in actually going to Nottingham to actually play in this and use some of these models and such. But it's still kind of at the early stages of this. We've kind of created some concept stuff for kind of this cult of still faithful to the Emperor, but kind of fanatical. And we actually have some stuff about it posted on the blog and actually on Iron Sleet's blog, which I feel if anyone was interested in kind of learning more about the project, you should just go to ironsleet.com, and they have a whole host of posts and stuff about different people involved in the project, showing different models and stuff they're creating, and a lot of interesting, exciting stuff.
Yeah, mainly exploring like some sides of the 41st millennium that you don't really hear a lot about, and certainly don't see a lot of models to represent.
Mm-hmm. So someone's going to be kind of exploring the black ships, which, they're those ships that bring all the Psychers primarily to Earth, a bunch of them that get sort of sacrificed to keeping the Astronomicon functioning. So some people are going to be exploring sort of the criminal underbelly of Terra with since there's so many pilgrims taking this pilgrimage to Terra to see, like, Holy Terra, and I guess not the Emperor because he's shut behind the Eternity Gate, but because all these pilgrims will die on the planet, and they have kind of a criminal underbelly that cuts up the corpses and sells the blood because it's holy, because it reached Terra and whatnot. So some interesting things to look at. So,
I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a neat project for you guys to be working on.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to kind of see where it goes, and excited just to see, what happens with it, and if Games Workshop, I don't know, goes anywhere with it. Because it would be cool even if they didn't consider it, official canon for what happens, because, hell, the Emperor might die or something, and they probably wouldn't be thrilled about that. But even if it just encouraged Games Workshop to, like, re-examine Inquisitor or Necromunda, particularly with the announcement that Specialist Games is getting back together, like, it would be cool if it would just kind of spur them towards, just supporting some of those other sides of the 41st millennium rather than just strictly 40k with large armies of Space Marines. And
maybe your cult will become canon someday.
Yeah, be included in, like, a little tagline in one of their timelines or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I guess, we can just leave it at that there, and hopefully in the future we'll have more to show and say about this. But yeah, it's, I guess, been about an hour now, so should probably call it to close. Does anyone have any kind of closing remarks?
Nope. Well, thanks for letting me join your podcast.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you.
Yeah, hopefully in the future you'll be able to come back and
hear about Frostgrave. I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully you can be a part of many more of these to come. But I guess, with that, thanks for listening, everybody. And
the truth is out there.
Yeah, the truth is out there. Well, signing off, everybody. Have a nice evening. Bye.